talk about is oh my god, the Rohingya genocide and the Rohingya refugee crisis. So for those who don't know, the Rohingya are a ethnic minority who live in the Rakhine state of Myanmar, formerly Burma, and they are so Myanmar. If I use the two words Burma and Myanmar interchangeably, apologize, but they're the same country, essentially. So Myanmar is generally a Buddhist majority. They have various ethnic groups and whatever else, and the Rohingya, they are a Muslim minority. Now the Myanmar authorities, the Myanmar authorities and the Myanmar general public as well, they basically don't accept that the Rohingya people are native to Burmese land. They think that they are descendants from, so Myanmar borders Bangladesh, right? So Myanmar authorities and public say that the Rohingya people are they come from Bangladesh, basically, because they're Muslim. They come from Bangladesh. They don't belong there. They settled there. They're not Burmese. Like their ethnicity is not recognized. In 1982, they passed a nationality bill, citizenship bill, I think, basically, and they didn't recognize the Rohingya people as being a part of like the Myanmar public. So this discrimination has been like ongoing with the Rohingya people in the borders of Myanmar for a long time, for decades. They were discriminated in several ways, like restriction of movement, like restrictions in terms of access to like education, medical help, housing, employment, just general discrimination. And then in 2018, there was like an exodus of like there was riots in the Rakhine state. Basically, there was riots between the Rohingya people and the Buddhist populations and the Myanmar states. That led to like an exodus of I think it was like 200,000 Rohingya refugees. I think
Yeah,
I might be wrong.
I read way more than that.
Oh, that was initially in
okay,
2012.
yeah.
And then in 2017, there was a huge, like terrifyingly violent military crackdown now of the Rohingya people. And I'm talking about systemic kind of like massacres. When I say genocide, I mean like they are still systemically murdering the Rohingya people, burning down Rohingya villages, raping, I'm sorry, trigger warning, rape and violence, like raping Rohingya women, murdering, infanticide, so like literally murdering, slaughtering kids and babies. Literally just murdering them. Like I don't know how else to put it. Murdering, inflicting like in unimaginable violence on them, and as a result of it, like so many, like I think over 1 million Rohingya refugees have basically fled to neighboring Bangladesh, the southeast of Bangladesh, in Cox's Bazar. And to this day, there are 1 million Rohingya refugees living in Bangladesh right now. It is the largest refugee camp in the world. The exodus of the Rohingya people from Burma to Bangladesh has been cited as being the largest displacement of people in Asia since the Vietnam War. It's just crazy. Like it's an ongoing problem. It's an absolutely ongoing problem. The Burmese government, the Myanmar government, they're not taking any responsibility. It's so ironic as well because the leader of that country, she has a Nobel Peace Prize. She has a Nobel Peace Prize.
Oh yeah, I read something about them being like human rights, like icon or something before, and like
she has a Nobel Peace Prize. Bangladesh obviously have had no choice but to take in, as I said, over 1 million Rohingya refugees. Oh, and also, by the way, like when I say it's the largest refugee camp in the world, they're also living in absolute squalor.
Yeah.
Like they 80% of Rohingyas are currently in need of humanitarian aid. They don't have access to like food, medical equipment, clean water. Like they're not even living basically right now. Recently as well, I think this was during Ramadan, a fire broke out in one of the
Mm.
refugee camps. 50,000 people were killed. Um, Bangladesh tried to repatriate some of the refugees back to Myanmar. They tried to give some of them back to Myanmar, knowing the persecution that they would face back there. Bangladesh have also tried to send some of the refugees to uninhabitable islands in a bid to try and deal with the issue.
Not very commendable. Not commendable at
No,
all.
no, no,
Right,
no. It's an
yeah.
ongoing issue. Not very many people are aware of it, and
Mm.
actually, one thing that I wanted to talk about is how, surprise, surprise, this issue has roots in colonialism. Surprise,
Really?
surprise,
Well,
surprise, surprise.
isn't that completely unexpected?
Yeah, so one thing that a lot of people don't understand is that obviously they see it as kind of like a recent issue, with after the riots in 2012 and then the military crackdown in 2017, but they don't realize. So obviously, as with most of South Asia, Burma was also under British rule until 1948, and then so the Burmese. Actually, wait, I'm trying to think how's the best way to explain this. So Burma was under British rule until 1948, and then you see South Asia as it is right now. So you see like India, the nation state of India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Burma. These are colonial constructs, right? So borders are colonial constructs. They did not exist in pre-colonial subcontinent. Regionalism was a thing, yeah, sure, but borders as we know them, nation states, nationalities, they did not exist in that way, right? So the disease of nationhood and like nationalism, that is very much a colonial hangover. Now, when Burma suddenly became a nation state in the post-colonial period, like all nation states, it needed to have a sense of identity, right? And obviously, like I said, it's quite ethnically heterogeneous. So, like, there's various ethnic groups in Burma. They needed to unite under one. Like I said, with all ex-colonies, they then adopt a certain strain of nationalism to give them that post-colonial identity, right, in the wake of decolonization. So Burma adopted this kind of Burmese nationalism where it was very, very linked to Buddhist identity. So, like I said, majority of the country is Buddhist. Now, as a result of that, the Rohingya people, who are an ethnic minority and a ethno-religious minority, basically, they didn't fit into this vision of Burmese nationalism. Now, as a result of that, Burma didn't accept them. It didn't include them within the imaginations of what it is to be Burmese, and they therefore palmed them off to Bangladesh, basically, by saying like, these are Bangladeshi kind of settlers. They're from Bangladesh. They don't belong here. They're a minority. They're so different to us. Now, this is what is so terrifying and so masterful also about colonialism. As I said before, borders are a colonial construct. Regionalism, if one group of people live close to another group of people, there are going to be similarities. Now, this is the anthropologist in me jumping out. Like, ethnography, the way we understand ethnography and the way we understand like ethnicity, it's so tentative. It's so tentative, it's so precarious. Like, what even makes a person's ethnicity? We can talk about like regional linguistic similarities and whatever else, but if two people live in proximity to each other, of course there are going to be similarities. If they share a border, there's going to be similarities. That does not necessarily mean that the two people are the same people, or that one person came from another person. The Rohingya people have claim to that land. They have proof of their existence can be traced back to like the medieval times, basically. So they've been there, they belong there, they are native to that land. But Burma, in a bid to make more rigid their Burmese kind of like mono state, they needed to alienate the Rohingya people. They needed to like other the Rohingya people, and that's how they did it. And again, like going off on a bit of a tangent, but it's just so funny, like how perfectly anecdotal this is to the treatment of Bangladeshis in the subcontinent. Like, why are they calling them specifically Bangladeshi? It's not just to say that they're different from us. It's to say that they're lower than us. They're inferior to us. Because if we look at the way that specifically Bangladeshi Muslims are and have been treated in the subcontinent, genocide at the hands of Pakistan, being put in concentration camps up and down in India right now, Bangladeshi massacres in the state of Assam in India. Like, Bangladeshis have been treated as though they are an inferior group of people. So when the Myanmar authorities call the Rohingya Bangladeshi, it's a very deliberate labeling. They're not just saying they're different, as I said, they're saying they're inferior. So again, it's really important for us to understand the colonial roots of this problem, and essentially like how nationalism is a disease and nothing good can ever come from it. But more so, I want to like I said, it's not something that there's been like a breakthrough in the news recently, although there is always breakthroughs like happening because it's an ongoing issue. But it's something that it just does not get as much media traction as it should. You know, like the UN have named the Rohingya as one of, if not the most discriminated ethnic groups in the world. They have called them the quote-unquote least wanted group of people in the world.
You know what I think really showed that as well was when you said you wanted to talk about this and I was looking into it more, actually reading about it, and I was reading about like what happened and everything, and I was like, okay, but why?
Yeah.
And then I was like, looking like, well, why? And like, there's no real reason why. It is just plain discrimination. Like, it's not like there was like, obviously there's triggers and this and that, but like, it's not like, oh, they didn't like them because of this, that. It's just, they didn't like them because they exist. That's it's as simple as that. It's
just Islamophobia. It's nationalism. It's discrimination, like however you want to put it. It is. And also, like, again, I forgot to mention divide and conquer. Like, naturally the British they and other like colonial masters as well, they rule through divide and conquer, right? So they'd go to like a place where, like I said before, borders don't exist. They'd look at various ethnic groups and whatever else, and then they'd like align themselves in differential ways with various ethnic groups, so as to emphasize differences between them to keep them separated. So while they were in control of Burma, they kind of promised the Rohingya people their own separate nation state, which they, subsequently rescinded. But they had emphasized that difference during the colonial era, and obviously that difference then remained.
Just like to give like, I got some like figures as well.
Oh, so yeah, sorry, like, If we're not, to understand the magnitude of it, sorry, I didn't.
So like, obviously you're saying like, I think it might be 1 million, like including like before like 2017 as well. But the ones that I got, apparently since August 2017, when the most recent exodus happened, since that point, 745,000 fled, of which 400,000 were children. Bear in mind that the Rohingya population in Myanmar before this was around 1 million.
Yeah.
So that is basically 3/4 of a whole population getting up and going in the space of a month, pretty much, or like since August 2017. At least 290 around that villages burned, like you said, obviously sexual assault, murder. At least 6,700 Rohingya, including at least 730 children under the age of 5, were killed in this month, like between August and September. The government of Myanmar puts the death rate at 400 and claimed that the pillages ended like a few weeks afterwards, which they obviously didn't. And yeah, so like I think especially when we talk about like Palestine and the idea of ethnic cleansing, just like we look at the map and see Palestine getting smaller and smaller and Israel getting larger and larger. Just like that figure is what really stuck with me, was like, so there are around 1 million of them prior to 2017, and then since then 3/4 of that have left. And it is it's genocide. Like, when you're systemically murdering off a group of people for their ethnicity, that is genocide. Like, there are like every single Human Rights Watch organization has called it a human rights abuses. And then the leader, she goes, I'm saying leader because I don't know if it's president or prime minister, but she said,
oh, which country doesn't have human rights abuses?
What, the one
You
who,
with
the
your-
one who,
with-
yeah, the one.
You with your Nobel Peace Prize, okay, this is what you fix your lips to say,
Oh my
okay.
gosh.
Look at your head. But yeah, I don't
Oh.
know, like I don't know what the solution is, honestly. I don't know. I'm also like Bangladesh also it's been disappointing the way that Bangladesh have dealt with it. In 2012, after the first kind of riots, well, I say first, but like as the issue is right now, the riots in 2012, Sheikh Hasina, the Prime Minister of Bangladesh, she came forward and she said, oh, we can't take them, we're a poor country ourselves, like we can't accommodate for them, blah 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 blah. And then more recently, once they had gotten a little bit more like international media traction, she was then coming forward and saying things like, yeah, we'll house them, whatever else. Like her intentions are just not pure, like they're just not, and again, like I said, the way that they've dealt with it by trying to send them to uninhabitable islands, absolutely despicable. Like they're still in refugee camps. It's been years, half a decade, and they're living in refugee camps. Bangladesh won't grant them any path to naturalization, so it won't grant them a path to citizenship. I've heard stories about some Rohingya children that have managed to enroll themselves in Bangladeshi schools, not being allowed to learn the Bangladeshi language. The Bangla language, which again is so sinister, because like if you think about language as being a pivot to nationality and citizenship, yeah, like same way that I know I've spoken about my research with like the indigenous people in Bangladesh, right? So it's kind of like two sides of the same coin. The indigenous people in Bangladesh, they're not allowed to speak their native tongue. They're forced to speak Bangla. That is to say, they are forced to perform Bangladeshi citizenship. Now, in the same way, the Rohingya are forbidden from speaking Bangla. That is to say, they are precluded from performing a Bangladeshi citizenship. Like the way language can be used to oppress and enforce and withdraw citizenship.
In so many
very
different
interesting.
ways.
Yeah. I mean, that's the whole PhD thesis in itself. But like, we just have to be cognizant and very aware that these things are happening. There are various like organizations that give aid to the Rohingya. The one in particular that I would really recommend is an organization called Restless Beings. You can Google them, you can find them on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and they do like really, really good on the ground work that, in the refugee camps in Bangladesh, providing like medical equipment, providing schooling, housing, clothing, food, all of that. I think it's just really important for us to be aware. Like I said, it is it is a huge travesty, and it's something that just does not get media traction.
Definitely, because when I think something must have happened with it recently, because I remember I was driving up toward Princess Parkway, where it gets like into town and it reaches the Mancunian Way.
Yeah.
There's like a bridge there, like
Yeah,
near
yeah,
Loretto,
yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
And the Myanmar flag was there. And
It's still. I saw it yesterday. I saw it yesterday.
Yeah, and I was like,
Oh,
so
that's
something
that's
happened.
a different issue.
Yeah, is this? Because I was trying to find this ahead of this, the whole free.
Yeah. So there's there's an issue going on in Myanmar right now with kind of like there's a military crackdown on like the general Myanmar public. So like censorship, media censorship. Journalists are being jailed. People aren't given access to, like, people are taking access away from social media. That just bare human rights abuses, basically. Like,
so yeah,
they're just trash, the Myanmar government are just trash. Like,
yeah, Myanmar people, we're not coming for you. We're just criticizing.
well, the ones that are like against the Rohingya people and like burning up their villages,
coming
bun
for
you.
But innocent people.
Yeah.
Just thinking that before we move on from this, just when you were saying before, I was just thinking about how obviously this problem in Myanmar is rooted in colonialism, like you said.
Yeah.
However, the way that they're acting now and Bangladesh is acting now, obviously it isn't great in terms of
no, they need to be held
housing
accountable,
refugees.
absolutely.
But thinking about that, is there any country or any situation like that has existed in recent history where we can look to that as a model for housing refugees and doing the right thing? Because I can't think of any.
No.
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 Does that mean that it's not necessarily possible, or does that mean people just don't want to do it?
It's not possible at all. That is treacherous territory, I think. Because what we're gonna do, like let people die.
Yeah, no, this is the thing, like, it just makes you think, though, when it's, like, the fact that it's never...
It's abysmal, that's what it is, it's abysmal.
The fact that you can't, like, think
Yeah.
this was a time where people needed to go somewhere else and they were treated fairly and then they went there and then everything was fine afterwards because the country housed them and did this and did that. Is that due to the fact that it is beyond their capability, or is it due to the fact that there's just so much resistance and
like justice needs to be brought? Yeah. And it's not even the case that the Rohingya need to be rehoused. They need to be they need their land back. They need their homes back. They need citizenship reinstated. You know, like the Myanmar government needs to be held accountable for what they have done. You know, on this note, like one thing that I do want to say is so the Gambia. Oh, this makes me so emotional. Like when this case was ongoing, like anytime I would read the news, it would make me cry, like literally physically bring me to tears. So the Gambia are the only country in the world, bless them, tiny Gambia, who don't have much for themselves, took the Myanmar government to court. Like they took their, honestly, I'm getting like really emotional just saying it, but like they stood up for the Rohingya people. They took the Myanmar government to human rights court because they face also genocide in their history. And Gambia, the Gambia, what did they have, man? They have nothing, and they're the ones sticking up for the Rohingya people. And when the case was ongoing, like I was watching clips of the Rohingya people in the refugee camps with screens of projectors of kind of progress on the case, and like sending love, like just the two people like sending love and solidarity to each other. Like it was so touching. And honestly, like the Gambia, I love you, I respect you so much. Thank you for doing like what bigger, richer, more capable countries should have been doing. Shout out the Gambia, man.
Shout out the Gambia.